All right, good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. Today is Thursday, March 21st, 2024. It's 6:04 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And since we have one member who's remote, we need a roll call for attendance. So Sylvia, do you want to take it up?
Sylvia Cummings here.
Melissa Gary, present.
Michelle Druso, present.
Karen O'Neill here.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Jennifer Coffin here.
And Raina Dastu here. Great. All right. So our first item is citizens' comments. I don't see anyone here in the audience, and we have not heard from anyone. I also just want to say that the agenda's a little bit choppy tonight. The business and the reports were kind of split up to facilitate having our presenters come early and to get the executive session taken care of early on in the meeting. So that's why it looks a little bit like that. So our student report, first up. Do I need something to allow you to? Oh, there we go. Great.
See if I can make that a slideshow. Okay.
Hey, hello everyone. We just have a quick report tonight. We're going to be talking about some student events, so this would be about the musical and the end of the sports season, and then we're going to give you guys a quick rundown of some interviews we did with students about their history classes and how they're enjoying those and what they want more out of them.
Last weekend was the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which was a musical performed by our theater club, led by director Brian Campbell and William Copeland as a music director. And our theater club did an amazing job. It was a hilarious musical performance. It was over the weekend. It was very successful, and it was for 3 days straight. It was full of humor and performed by excellent cast. Two of them were seniors, Raven Singh and Rosalind Moore, and we wish them a heartfelt goodbye as they move forward to graduation. They will be missed at Pioneer and their amazing acting skills. Winter sports. To start off, we have girls basketball. We thank you for your hard work and dedication to our school. The girls basketball team made it to the 16th round. It was a very close game, an incredible effort, and we appreciate their determination to the sport, and they deserve congratulations and recognition. There we go. Then we have the boys basketball. Again, we thank you for your hard work and dedication to our school. Our boys basketball team made it to the Final Four, and they showed extreme effort and determination, and this will be one of our most thrilling seasons yet. And Braden Thayer was one of the members that was able to score 1,000 points. Winter track. Again, thank you for your hard work and dedication to our school. The winter track team was a fun season with determination and a lot of growth throughout their athletes. The 4x4 relay team, Sahana Heilman, Danny Herak, Louise Felaget, Namuel Felaget, they all set a school record, and Louise Felaget actually was able to earn first place in the PVIC High School Jump Championship and earned second place to states. So congratulations to your hard work and dedication.
Okay, so we just did some quick interviews with students grade 12 through 7 about their history and social study classes. We asked them, what are they learning in class right now? How do they feel about the class, and is there anything more they'd like to get out of it? So AP US History, this class is 11th through 12th grade. Currently, that class is broadly reviewing from the Cold War back to the Great Depression as we're preparing for our AP exam. Students find the class to be very rigorous, but have a great curriculum that is like conveying an immense amount of info, so we're learning a lot there. And a lot of students are eager to have more in-class discussions to like reflect on all this info we're taking in. The American Studies 2 class, which is 11th grade, is covering World War II and is currently focusing on important battles such as D-Day and the Battle of the Gulch. Students report feeling like they're enjoying the class, that's comprehensible, and they have lots of options for learning style. So if there's a given assignment, they can complete it on a computer, on paper, and whatever feels the best for them. American Studies 1, 10th grade. They're currently learning about the late 1700s and working on a Bill of Rights project, which includes writing down and learning about each of those 10 amendments and then creating their own new amendment they think would improve the country. Again, this class is widely liked. They really enjoy their teachers' enthusiasm, and multiple students made comment that they like that their classroom has a cozy environment and that they think it helps them learn better. And we asked, but they couldn't really think of more they were hoping to get from this class, which I personally think is a great sign, meaning that we're fulfilling what they need. World History, which is 9th grade, is missed a unit on World War I. Again, it's a widely liked class. They find a lot of enthusiasm from the teacher, and it carried over. Okay, well, what these students were saying is that felt the teacher is extremely engaging and that they like they're able to roam around the class in this one. Social Studies 2 is interestingly covering global warming right now and talking about its significance in the past, our current time, and in the future. They find a lot of great engagement from them, and when asked, they couldn't find more to think about. What we notice as we move through the grades is the level of in-depth thought to the questions equivalent with the age group we were talking to. In Social Studies 1, they're talking about ancient Greece. They have a reward system in class for when they get up and answer questions from class, and they said they really enjoy that. And so, questions. We're student representatives. We wanted to make ourselves available to the committee. If you guys have any questions about the student body, we're here to answer them. If not, just great.
Thank you so much. We appreciate and I appreciate you talking to your colleagues in school about what they'd like, what they're enjoying, and what they'd like to see different. And I too think that it's says something really positive about the history classes when a student can say, I can't really think of any way that this would be better. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So on to business. Our update on the school culture by the counseling staff. Do you want to introduce?
Sure. As our team comes up to the mic, I'll have them introduce themselves and let you know that counseling staff from all 3 buildings have a monthly work session and learning session with each other, and we now have an outside provider who is doing some guidance for that work, some professional development. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, and we'll watch these beautiful slides up on the screen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kat Freeman. I'm the school adjustment counselor here at Pioneer.
I am Charity O'Connor. I'm the middle school counselor here at Pioneer.
Great. So we're excited to jump right in. We were able to consult with our professional learning community, which is that monthly meeting that we have with the counselors and psychologists from the elementary schools, as well as our psychologist here, in kind of pulling this together. And it's also really shows some culminating work, I think, in the packets that you all have around some work we did last year around our mission and vision statement, as well as just connecting what's happening with social emotional learning at the elementary school with what's happening here, so that students can really see that kind of common language and those common frameworks to really help make things stick. So we wanted to start with just some framing around what is school culture. It can be a little bit of a buzzy word, but we are really using this definition that school culture is made up of fundamental beliefs and assumptions, shared values, norms, patterns, and behaviors that make up our school. School culture is how we feel when we walk into a place. It's how we treat each other and how we react when something hard or unexpected happens. And when we think about the indicators of school culture, you can see there's another handout that you should have that looks like this. It's just going to help us a little bit more with this framework to kind of think about. It's a big word and it really encompasses a lot. So what are we actually talking about when we talk about school culture? And one of the main things we want to be holding in this framework for all of us is that we're all responsible for school culture. So like as the district-wide counseling team, we're really excited to bring ideas and initiatives and really help like build that school culture. And at the end of the day, the school culture is made up of students, of teachers and staff, of administration, of families and communities. We're all a part of building the school culture together.
Yeah, so I think that's a really helpful intro, and we wanted to just, before going into the updates about the district's initiatives around school culture, we just wanted to sort of further dive into building a shared language around how we're thinking about school culture. So one of the big pieces or kind of frameworks that we use is the ecological model, so understanding schools as really complex ecosystems. And so this is a little kind of overview of what that means. So understanding that schools are part of an interconnected web. So recognizing that like individual family units and clubs and organizations in the community and the ways that those interact with each other and the ways that those interact with school, with admin, with the teachers, like all of that is very much intertwined. And so what we know about healthy, well-functioning school systems is that they're dynamic, balanced, and flexible. Diversity within school systems is necessary and adaptive. So if you remember your days in ecology, you can recognize that a lot of these principles are coming from ecological science. Schools use feedback to identify and address emerging issues. So we'll give some examples of what kinds of feedback we might be using when we recognize school culture strengths and challenges. Meaning is both constructed and experienced within schools and their subsystems. Healthy schools are sustainable, so we're really looking to find that ideal balance and be able to maintain and sustain it long term. And then schools and therefore community members are understood in context. And that's one of the big pieces, I think, just recognizing that, anyone who's sitting in front of us, for instance, as a counselor, we recognize that they're part of these complex systems, right? And so whatever they're bringing to the table is influenced by everything that's happening around them, both kind of locally and regionally and nationally and all over.
So within this kind of ecological model, we really want to think about behaviors as sort of symptoms of like something that's happening more broadly. So the new behavior, like a behavior like skipping class or a structure like an exclusionary social clique could arise because of like a bigger problem. And so we want to try to address that bigger problem. It can be really, we can feel really drawn to like kind of putting out a lot of small fires and really addressing like things between individual students. But when we notice something like that as a pattern, it's more effective to have a systemic intervention and to be looking for those patterns as opposed to identifying certain students as like sort of bad students, to understand that what's showing up in students is symptomatic of something that's not healthy in the ecosystem of our school.
So this is just a little graphic illustration to sort of help you understand what we're talking about. As you can see, it outlines a lot of the different influences and kind of mutually, it's a cycle, so things are affecting each other. So things like achievement are measures of success, the infrastructure, physical safety. I feel like that's been something that the school's really been working on, and that improves our ecosystem. Behavioral trends, and then you can see the sort of smaller text or more maybe localized, like community perceptions of the school, familial and community. What does that say actually? I can't read it from here. Claire, what does it say? Next to achievement measures?
Achievement measure of success. Measures of success.
Oh, the other
This one?
Oh, norms. Oh, thank you. Norms. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like how conflicts are resolved, local and national school policies, all of those things are really contributing to the felt sense of how people feel right when they walk in the building, when they attend school here, when they work here. That's what we're sort of looking at.
So earlier we talked a little bit about what feedback is, and these are the kinds of feedback that we're using when we think about school culture and when we think about like new initiatives that we might want to bring to school and new things we might want to try. These are kind of our measurement tools. So we're looking at things like student engagement. We have a climate survey that we're doing in the beginning of the year and at the end of the year that's helping us to gather data around students' experiences inside and outside of the classroom. We're looking at academic achievement, attendance, disciplinary referrals, our students wanting to stay at school, our staff wanting to stay at our school, and what are the perceptions of community and stakeholders. So to start with the sort of progress in the district, we want to have everyone take a look at the chart that we mentioned earlier that we worked on with the elementary schools as a district-wide counseling team. So this shows all of the different initiatives that we're working on, and it's broken down by topic. So you can see the sort of community building and violence prevention work that's happening at elementary, transitioning into secondary, the mental health screeners, how we're managing with conflict resolution, suicide prevention. There's a lot of small groups happening. There's actually a lot happening, and it's sometimes hard to see that all on a day-to-day basis. So this really works to capture all the different pieces of what's going on.
Yeah, so we can maybe, do we want to walk through a couple of those and talk about kind of where they're at? So elementary does Second Step, which is a sort of bullying prevention program, and they do that K through 5. I think they've been thinking about how to adopt some version of that for 6th grade. And so we're thinking about like transitional year between elementary and middle school is really critical. So that's part of our collaboration, is thinking about that together. And sort of at the secondary level, you know, things that Kat and I and others have worked on. So Brave Schools is something that we started this year. It's been a partnership with the Karuna Center for Peace Building, and it stands for Building Resilience Against Violent Extremism. And so we're really looking at how can we identify students who may be at risk for being pulled into, you know, minor violence or like major violence, right? In terms of extremist ideologies, knowing the role that social media and influences sort of play in shaping students' perceptions, all of our perceptions. So that work has been taking place over the year, and it's been a lot of actually just kind of like building capacity and training and growing a shared understanding of the dynamics of how that happens. And then we've also there's been people in the building doing really incredible work around restorative justice, in particular community building circles that are led between high school leaders and the 7th graders. Do you want to share a little about that?
Yeah, and that circle work actually comes in some ways directly out of Brave Schools, because part of what they discovered through the research that Brave Schools was doing is that school culture, again, is really at the root of things. So students are more likely to be drawn into violent extremism when they don't feel connected, when they don't have a sense of community, when they don't feel like they belong and like they have peers and people who are looking out for them. And the Brave Schools folks were really talking about how a big intervention that can happen around community building is restorative justice, because a big piece of it is community building, and a big piece of it is also reimagining how we're doing discipline. So we started doing these circles at the beginning of the year. Our high school leaders have been able to do several different trainings. They did a 2-day training last year and a day-long training this year with other high school restorative justice leaders from across the Franklin and Hampshire counties. And we're really hoping to see that work continue. We're kind of in a little bit of a wait and see moment. We have a proposal about what it would look like to do a more comprehensive restorative justice program here, but there's just some big questions about, are we ready as a community? What would funding that look like? But we are excited to see that we're starting to lay those first building blocks for that.
Awesome. Yep, so for mental health screening, elementary does SABRS, and the idea of screeners, that they're universal, right? They're like a tier 1 way that we're kind of getting eyes on all students at once. And so here we do signs of suicide, which we just kind of are in the midst of wrapping up. So we typically do a little bit of training with faculty around the topic of suicide prevention, supporting students who may be experiencing that. And then we will go into, we did 7th grade this year, so we did all the 7th grade English classes had a lesson on suicide prevention, and then we screen all students in the school. And so then the counseling team looks at those screeners and identifies students who might benefit from some extra support or a check-in, and we sort of triage and go from there around making sure they're connected. Conflict resolution, I think, is so, part and parcel with restorative justice, and I think we're hoping that that can be a way to continue to grow conflict resolution skills amongst all of us in the community. But sort of in addition or in the meantime, Second Step provides a lot of training and information around how students can intervene when they see bullying, but also how they can resolve, peer-to-peer kinds of conflicts. And so here we don't have necessarily a curriculum, but we do a lot of, small group or peer-to-peer mediations as the counseling team, and often involve teachers and things like that. So we're trying to sort of lay some of the groundwork to teach those skills.
Yeah, I'll say a little bit about groups. So groups at the elementary level look like lunch bunches, counselors going into classrooms to deliver social emotional learning lessons. And at the secondary level, it's a little bit more of a tier 2 intervention. So we have some targeted groups for students who are being identified as needing some additional supports. So we have dialectical behavioral therapy groups, we do some anxiety management groups, social skills groups, and then we also do some in-class SEL at this level too.
I think the last thing I'll add is just that in the process of hopefully getting a high school counselor hired for fall, which is really exciting, Scott Frenier has been doing a lot of work with me and others in the building around sort of rethinking our high school counseling program. And so there's some exciting things in the works around building up the culture of college and career readiness. And so we're looking at a state program called MyCap. We've been going to trainings for my career and academic plan. And the idea is that every student, 7 through 12, is engaged in thinking about their future plan. And so they're engaging in developmentally appropriate kind of sequenced learning opportunities throughout their time here. And we use a tool called MIFA Pathways, where they can track that progress and have kind of an electronic portfolio, so to speak. And so it follows them all the way through their time here. And so I think we're hoping that can also just really influence and then kind of empower students to feel excited about school and like they have a really clear path or vision for their future. So yeah, I think that covers the update.
Yeah, we wanted to end by kind of bringing the what's next to everyone, right? Because school culture is about all of us. We're really excited to get feedback from everyone. We're definitely serving students a lot as well. And we're just, interested in continuing to build this vision around our shared values and to keep supporting our whole community. Does anyone have any questions?
Go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, sorry. You want to go first? Okay. Can you tell me how this is built into the curriculum, how a parent would identify if their child is receiving one-on-one counseling or group? You mentioned the group experience. How would you articulate as an ongoing, for example, I'll give you something that I had heard in the past, that children had too many study halls. So is this taking up a study hall? Are you integrating it into the curriculum, or are you doing one-on-one counseling for those identified, I guess?
Totally. It's a great question. So I would say it's kind of a mix. Like, students are receiving counseling in different ways. In terms of one-on-one counseling, some students have counseling in their IEPs or counseling as a part of their 504. So then it would be a part of their schedule. Other students might just identify that they would like some extra support. Like a gen ed student might identify that they would benefit on their own from extra support, or a teacher might say, the student feels like they need to be checked in with, and then Charity or I would make a time with that student to check in and figure out how to meet that student's needs.
So it's not all the children as a group. It's an identified amount of children in a group that need that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was.
Yeah, and then when students are invited to join groups, so that's
Yeah.
like an opt-in process where parents would get a letter, students would see the same letter, and then they would decide, is this a group that I feel like I want to commit to?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Sylvia.
So my question actually, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer. So you're seeing students one-on-one in addition to groups and putting the program together. So this is a very rich program, and I commend you for this. This is amazing. So this is pretty incredible, and I'm really impressed with this. So thank you for putting that together. That was pretty much, I just more of a statement than a question.
Thank you.
In terms of the suicide screeners and the SABRE screener, so you said that those are reviewed by the counseling staff, and if there are any concerns, then you reach out to the individual family and or student, or I would think student and family. So, all right, great. No, that's good. And how are the screeners distributed? As you said, you screen every student. I'm just curious.
Yeah, SOS is actually paper. It's one of the few ones that we still do on paper. So it goes out through Pathways, and we give Pathways teachers a really brief kind of outline for how to introduce the screener, kind of set the stage and provide a safe space, and then they administer it in class. It's really short. It's probably like 5 or 6 questions. And then we collect all of them, and we kind of block off a couple days just to go through them and make sure that we're checking in with students like urgently, less urgent, triaging who needs to be checked in with first.
Great. Thank you.
Actually, I had a question.
Yeah.
So I have a question about the SOS or suicide curriculum. Do you notify parents ahead of time that you're doing this?
Yeah,
Screening for everyone? So parents are aware this is coming, which gives them an opportunity to talk to them about how the student did, how they felt about it at home, and sort of have that open communication.
Definitely. Yeah, we send a letter out a week or more in advance usually. And it hopefully it becomes normalized, a regular thing that people sort of remember that we do every year. But yeah, we do send a letter out. Yeah.
Okay. And my second question is on restorative justice. And I know there's a lot of talk about that and training that you're all going to, which I'm glad to hear that. And my notes, correct me if I'm wrong, say you're working on getting that disseminated down to the students. And do you have a timeline and how you see that it's being rolled out and how long it's going to take to get rolled out and how you are noticing or identifying progress in that area and see that it's working, or they're getting the basis of what it is? Like, what are your benchmarks to know that they're being successfully deployed?
That's a really great question. So to have like a robust and effective restorative justice program, you have to have other staff, because as you may notice as you read through this, like Charity and I and the rest of the counseling staff are working on a lot of different things on top of seeing students individually. So you really need like a full-time coordinator. And when we did our training as a staff, as well as our training with high school leaders last year, our trainer was really clear with us, Lee Ellen from the Communities That Care Coalition, like, you need to start really small and like build up buy-in, and then you really need to have this be like a staffed position so that it can be effectively rolled out. So we're just in like a very baby stage where we're working just with 7th grade and just mostly working on that community building aspect, because to do restorative justice effectively, it has to involve everyone. So it has to involve administration, it has to involve all the teachers, there has to really be like a full community effort.
I'm sure there's lots of planning around how you're going to roll that out. So I look forward to hearing more about it. And then I have one final question.
Yeah.
So in my notes, you've listed that you have an elementary with second step, which I work at the elementary school, so I understand, and I'm part of that. And I'm glad that we have it. And then you're right, it is K through 5th. And you also mentioned that really pivotal year is a transition year, is from 6th to 7th. And there isn't anything in 6th grade. that I'm aware of, and I have a 6th grade student that is coming to 7th grade. And so I think I would ask how we're going to bridge that gap for all the students that are coming into 6th grade that will need it next year and all of the years coming up, because 6th to 7th grade at a new school is definitely a transitional year that needs a lot of attention.
Yeah, that's another great question. It's something we are continuing to discuss kind of as our professional learning community. I think certainly second step for 6th grade exists. And I think so we need to really think about, like, does that make the most sense? Is there something, do we want to align 6th grade more with sort of what the middle school is doing? Does that make more sense? So I think it's something we have to talk a little bit more about. I get the sense that there's a lot of sort of maybe more implicit teaching around some of the, bullying prevention or social emotional learning happening throughout the elementary school, but certainly in 6th grade too. But yeah, to your point, it would be really nice for us to have plug that in as a final sort of spot to make sure that all the bases are covered. I think we're also thinking about what does bullying prevention look like in middle and high school as well. Like, do we want to select a specific curriculum? We do a lot of social emotional learning things that kind of encompass that, but just thinking about the alignment of the district as a whole. And so we've seen like lots of great alignment and some areas where we want to continue to fine tune a little bit and make sure that everyone's covered.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the gap. And so having something that you can weave into the curriculum that naturally is holistic, that goes into 7th grade, seems ultimately important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'd like to commend the counseling staff. There was no administrator who reached out to the guidance counselor, school adjustment counselor, school psychologists, and said, go form a PLC, a professional learning, go do this work. It was their own initiative. It was their own professional judgment that it would be helpful to them to meet monthly, elementary and secondary together, and we need a 6th grade something. And because our staff are meeting and working with each other and under the guidance of an outside provider, we will find something for 6th grade. So again, I'd like to commend the counseling staff for taking the initiative to ensure that they were a cohesive pre-K through 12 professional learning community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I echo what Patricia said. I think it's fabulous. I think you're doing great work. These are wonderful documents. Appreciate it, and and we look forward to seeing that growth and improvements in the program. So, thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And as they are heading out, as Kat and Charity head out, the good news in the counseling department is also that Principal Sullivan hopes to make an offer tomorrow to a highly experienced, highly qualified high school guidance counselor to join us for the next school year. Keep your fingers crossed.
All right, so I will entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 2 and 3, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Teachers Association and support personnel if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, which yes, I do. We will be returning to open session. We will be inviting our superintendent and director of finance and our minutes taker.
Municipal Representative Sarah Kearns.
And yes, you got all that, yeah. All right, thank you.
Second.
All right, and we need a roll call vote.
Sylvia Cummings?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Giarrusso, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. All right.
Is this when I can attend?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll leave that. Take this. No, leave that. Take this. Great, thank you. Welcome back. All right. So moving on to back to our reports. For the chair's report, just a gentle reminder for members to try to check your email every couple of days, especially sometimes there are time-sensitive things that come up, so it's helpful to have you checking those. Warrants is one of those items that sometimes comes up, and we set up just a reminder that we set up the online signing systems to since the warrants don't always align with our meeting dates, and allows us to pay our bills sooner, get people paid. And a real shout out to the student athletes and the participants in the musical. Like Rain and Lex reported. It's great to see that participation, and I just want to acknowledge the hard work and the dedication, the time, and the energy that goes into those things. There's a lot of coordination, a lot of working together, and it's really great to see our students developing those skills and supporting each other, and it's exhausting and also really worth it. So thank you for doing all of that. All right, and on to the superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report. I will be brief. It is spring. The teams are outside, and the batting cages are going in. The FY20, is it too loud?
No, it's cold.
It is cold. The batting cages are going in. Thank you to our volunteers. The batting cages were in the FY24 budget. We are delighted that our student athletes will have this upgrade. Plans are moving along for the grand reopening of the auxiliary gym. Hold the date, Saturday, April 27th. The eclipse, the solar eclipse community viewing event, we have moved it up to this campus. The entire district is invited. The entire central office staff will empty out to support the event. The senior class has asked permission to fundraise by opening up the Eclipse Snack Shack. We are going to make a time capsule because the next solar eclipse approaching the totality that we will experience on April 9th will take place in, does anybody know? Anybody? 55 years from now, 2079, how old will you be? Where will you be? I will be 6 feet under. What a moment. What a moment. So part of our celebration of this incredibly rare natural phenomenon will be creating an actual time capsule. We have to figure out where it will be stored, what will go in it, but we want our kids to remember this event. We will be taking pictures. Claire, go ahead.
So by saying that the senior class wants to open the snack shack, so then we have been approved to have the snack shack?
I need to get the little, you saw the email, I said I would approve it. Wait, there's something else about this. Eclipse senior class. Well, you're going to talk about the trip.
What's going into it, yeah.
We have to figure out the genius idea of the time capsule just came up about a day and a half ago, and all of us jumped on it. So we'll figure out if it's archival paper or whatever. We're going to buy some of those instant printing cameras. They're not very expensive, and some film. Every family there, walk away with a beautiful picture of your family at the 2024 Great North American Solar Eclipse. So information to come. The entire community is invited. See you there.
Awesome. All right, Jordan, Director of Finance. Take it away.
I will also try to be equally as brief. Try to get it in before the sunset. I've got a pretty tight deadline. Getting into the expenditure report, at this time of year, I think it's good that there's nothing super exciting or alarming, because as you get closer to the year end, surprises could happen, but nothing alarming at the moment. All the big negative balances we've taken care of previously, and so the report's pretty clean. There's a very large remaining balance, but obviously some of that's due to things that aren't encumbered, such as active employee health insurance and the school choice and charter outgoing. Overall, I think that there'll be a small budget surplus of around $200,000 or 2% of the expenditure budget. So that's good. There's still some room for unexpected things that tend to happen. You know, Brian, I was speaking with Brian earlier about some oil at Bernardston Elementary School. So things tend to happen. You know, exactly. If you go a couple of weeks without something bad happen, you feel like the world's saving something even worse to happen. So I actually prefer a lot of small things every day. You know, I don't know if there's evidence to support that, but there's always expenses that you don't see coming. But we're in a good position to withstand those things. And in terms of revenue, you know, that's ticking along right where we'd want to see it. You know, 2/3 of the year has elapsed through February, and we've collected 61.53% of revenues, but there's some big portions, you know, such as assessments, Chapter 78 and transportation aid that's going to definitely come in. You know, these aren't things that are maybes. These are definitely going to come in. So I anticipate that we'll collect all of our budgeted revenue of $14,750,938. I don't know how closely people looked at the revenue report, but people may have noticed that there's a big negative in the town assessments. And that's the accounting that results from the checks being cut to return money to the towns. So that's good news, and you know, more information to come. But you know, the accounting behind that, I'm sure everybody's looking for a good bedtime story. But the accounting behind that is just that, you know, when the cash goes out the door, credit the cash, debit that assessment account, and then as you see, the appropriated excess and deficiency went up by a lot. So that's just covering the amount by paying through excess and deficiency to return that money to the towns. You don't take it directly from that excess and deficiency fund balance. You got to do it through the appropriate amount of excess and deficiency. I'm sure everyone was enthralled by that story. But the point being, the checks are cut and money is ready to go back to the towns. So that will happen very soon. No budget transfers. In terms of our lunch report, we continue to be in the black, and that's now including all of the encumbered summer salaries. So those salaries that will be paid out this summer in July and August are now taken into account, and we're still positive $330.58. And I anticipate we'll have a positive balance. And what I did at the request of Michelle is prepared a fund balance projection. So of course, you know, I'm like a genie. Your wish is my command, Michelle. But certified fund balance that we turned in for excess and deficiency was $290,407 as of June 30th, 2023. I project that the balance will be $310,000 as of June 30th, 2024. And people may have seen, you know, communications are starting to go around because many schools in the Commonwealth are in the same situation, having positive fund balances in their food service now that meals have been free for many years. Don't worry, we have a plan. Imagine if we got in trouble for having too much money in the school lunch program. That would be irony. But in fact, we will ensure to be in compliance and spend down some of that balance. And one of the things we have planned is getting a new freezer cooler, because it's borderline. You know, sometimes martial arts are needed to open some of the doors on our freezers in the district. So we're going to eliminate those. The necessity for that kind of violence against our equipment. So we're going to have new stuff. You know, we have something planned at NES. BES already has something new. But the great thing about using our significant fund balance in food service is that, you know, we don't have to assess anybody. So tax rates can remain reasonable and we can have nice stuff. That's what everybody wants, right? So all good on the lunch report end. And one last thing I wanted to mention was just that participation continues to improve. at the middle high school. And that just may be because we have so many parents of students at the middle high school who are employees of the food service program. They probably just know what the kids like to eat. So we're doing better and better with that inside knowledge.
Oh, and also because there's a great new addition to the Pioneer lunch, a salad bar. Right? I was so excited. What do you think, Lex?
We love it.
Right? It's so nice. They've got beautiful romaine lettuce, a few different vegetables, and black olives.
Yeah, I mean, participation, I if my eyes do not deceive me, is higher at PVRS than the elementaries, which I is maybe the first time in the history of maybe any school. So that's wonderful. And I mean that in all seriousness, because that just shows that, you know, the students that have greater agency and choice in general, right, as they get older, are choosing to eat the lunch here, which means our food service staff is doing a great job and should be thanked for thinking about what the students really like, and right, the data doesn't lie, and so our participation of 86% in the month of February, that's wonderful.
And on the screen. On the screen.
Oh, right, and this is a piece of unanticipated data yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, we'll send out something that's easier to read. The numbers are so small.
Yes, the numbers are small, but you know, maybe that's appropriate given given that our percentage increase in budget from year to year, FY 24 to 25, in comparison to other local districts, is minuscule, similar to the typeface on the screen. So PVRSD is all the way to the left at 0.64% increase of local budget from FY24 to FY25. And that's not to say we're not going to do great things in FY25 or add initiatives, you know, as we discussed in terms of curriculum and in other areas in terms of planned investments. We're going to continue to do a lot, but what we're doing is by really taking a close look at every number that goes into the budget, being able to do a lot of great stuff while at the same time keeping budget increases reasonable. Not just reasonable, smaller than essentially everyone else. And again, you know, I think that's what people want, right? They want services to continue to improve, but they want it to be affordable. And obviously, I'm proud of what we did, you know, with the budget subcommittee and the supportive school committee to be able to do that. And I hope, you know, we have similar stories next year as well.
I'm gonna give a little more info. Jordan might be being modest here. So we gather information from our colleagues. Jordan gets information from the business managers. I get information from the superintendents. The business managers this time around, one of them, I think Westboro, put out a call, you know, what's your budget percentage increase, FY 24-25? And as of about, I don't know, 5:30, 84 or so districts had put in their numbers. We looked at folks in the valley, all the way up here, all the way down towards Connecticut. We also pulled in some numbers from other sources that we had. Again, Pioneer is the orange number on the left. It's 0.64%. These are all local funds. This is not including an all funds approach. Over there on the far right is West Springfield at 12.58%. These are just local ones, but the Pioneer increase is 1/3 that of the next closest district. So the next closest district is Gil-Montague, which is projecting a 1.92% increase. That is 3 times higher than our district's increase for the next fiscal year. What you don't see here is the full spreadsheet on which budget managers are adding notes next to their district's projected increase for next year. And many districts are facing overrides, and many districts are facing deep cuts in personnel, dozens of staff in single districts. So
I feel for folks in those areas. People talk about the ESSER cliff, now that we can't use ESSER money. And I will say again, this district was disciplined.
Yeah.
Thank you, school committee, for supporting that approach. We didn't use ESSER as a piggy bank.
Right.
We didn't use it as a crutch. We used it strategically, and we're not facing the cliff, which is why you can approve the kinds of exciting projects that you are approving. So we'll put this into your packet, and I'll figure out a way to get this into the district update as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. The ESSER cliff is the big reason that everyone's talking. And not only that, there's huge increases in cost, right? Transportation is a big one. And districts across the state are facing that, and special education, right? Last year, the huge increases in out-of-district placements, but transportation. And we're not immune to any of that, but as I said, with a good budget process, support from our subcommittee and school committee, we collaboratively developed a budget that, although faces those same challenges, didn't respond to them by having a huge increase in local funds. Because, talking about ESSER, when you lose the ESSER money, right, it's got to be, if you created positions that were paid for by ESSER, you got to put it back on the local. And so for almost every district, that's the delicate dance they're trying to do, is not take away services and continue to fund things. And so what's happening is across, right, the 80, I think it was up to 86 districts, it's 4.5% increase in local funds from year to year. And yep, to Patricia's point, we have discipline and a good budget process that means that we're just ticking along. And obviously we're not immune to having difficulties, but I think that if we maintain a disciplined approach, we will, for the most part, avoid the big pitfalls.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So moving on to our approval of minutes for 2/8/24 and 2/15/24.
I move to accept the February 8th, 2024 meeting minutes.
I will second that.
All right. I do have one. Did the location of that meeting, wasn't that in the Kiva? Yeah.
Oh, it should be
Not the library. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yep. That was the only amendment I had. All right. Any further discussion? Great. Good.
Sylvia Cummings.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
And Raina Dasty, yes. That passes unanimously. And then the February 15th.
I'll move the February 15th meeting minutes.
I will second that.
Great. Any corrections? All right.
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
And Raina Dasty, yes. All right. And that one passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. And moving on to our school safety response to the request to reconsider school resource officer position. So I included a memo in the packet, and just for the public, I'll summarize that the Northfield Select Board has requested that the school committee reopen discussions regarding the implementation of the school resource officer position. So this topic was given thorough and thoughtful consideration by the school committee less than 1 year ago. The information available to members at that time has not changed substantively. Members of the select board have cited police calls during the school year as a reason to reconsider the topic. The list of calls, which was included in your packet and includes calls made by parents in addition to calls to the schools, is not substantially different from the data that was provided to the school committee previously for the previous school year. As this matter has already been decided by the school committee, and as there have not been any significant changes in the time since, I would recommend that the school committee not reopen discussions of the SRO position at this time. I invite members to share their questions and opinions on this agenda item during our meeting, since I don't speak for the entire committee, and I am open to other thoughts.
One thing Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
Nope,
raise
go
my
ahead.
hand. One thing I would like to acknowledge from the Select Board's letter is the Select Board is asking us to put forward a good faith effort to survey the community and see what the community is saying about this. And maybe we should do that before the next budget cycle. I mean, for this to come forward after we've passed a budget and we know the town's assessments, I wouldn't be in favor of doing that right now, but maybe we need to survey the community and the students for next year. That's an opinion I have on it.
Actually like that idea, Michelle, because we've sent surveys on other things, so this should be something that we should also survey. Also, I know a lot of things have been highlighted in regards to the school resource officer position, but something that really hasn't been brought up is what I consider sort of as an invisible student. And what I mean by that is sort of my experience going through middle school and high school, and I have to be careful what I say because this is streamed, but some of the experiences that I had at home, I didn't feel as though I could go to a guidance counselor. I didn't feel like I could fit. There were certain students that went into guidance, and in my mind, I wasn't one of those. And I also felt like there was a lot of students that were getting ready to go to college that a lot of the guidance, they spent their time with those students. And I didn't feel like the teachers were equipped to handle the experiences that I was facing. Had I had someone in this position and the knowledge base and not necessarily the person be able to fix what was going on, but sort of using them as a sounding board of, I don't think this is normal, this isn't typical to have in a household. I feel like I would have been able to go to that person. So just for whatever that's worth.
So I'm hearing that, Michelle, you would want to reopen this discussion.
I just think communication with our community is so important. And I think we need to hear from the community maybe for next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just making sure I was hearing what you're.
Well, I don't want to.
Because
the budget's done.
Right.
This year.
So I would say, and I would just caution us as a committee that we are charged with making decisions for the school district, and we can't possibly survey every single item that comes before us with everybody. I also feel there was some misrepresentation that we as a committee did not hear from a varied group of people. And we heard from parents via email that reached out to us. There was things that were presented to us publicly. Also, staff had emailed us. There were many different avenues that were taken into consideration when we made this decision. And I just kind of wanted to put that on record, that it wasn't just what the public saw, that we were contacted via email through multiple through multiple different community members in that. So I feel at this point, we have done a really good job with our our support staff that presented here to us today and talked about school culture. I feel like we are responding in appropriate ways to emergencies that have happened, that we are informed of emergency situations when necessary and appropriate. I haven't seen anything that has risen to a fear that I feel like there's this fear mongering kind of underlying happening that we need to have a resource officer here. So I just feel like we have talked about this, that we had made a decision, and that that we should, unless there is substantive change that has been presented to us by the school district, I think we need to stay with our decision.
I don't really agree with that at all. Sorry. I think it needs to be visited. I wasn't on the school committee at that point, and I would like a voice, and I'd like to discuss it. And I think that, no, I don't think that we need to survey the entire community on everything. But I think a topic of this nature should be. We surveyed about a children's, like a children's service survey. This is really significantly larger of a topic and it's a hot topic. So I really think that parents need to be involved. I was not really involved in the process, and I really wasn't given a space to really give my opinion as a parent then. So I really think the topic needs to be revisited, and I think at least it needs to be sent out as a survey.
The only other thing I wrote down about what the counselor said is that we need to hire a restorative justice coordinator. And I'm not sure if that's this year or next year, but I'm just looking, again, at the budget. And what is that person going to do? And are we going to hire more people for restorative justice? I mean, that was something that, really jumped out at me tonight.
I heard that, and I've heard that previously as it would be really great if the district could have a restorative justice coordinator for this school. There are no current plans to hire a restorative justice coordinator for the school. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen at some point, but I've not made any plans to do that.
And I think also what I heard from the presentation, and I've worked with the BRAVE program in my professional role, but there's a point where it makes sense to have a restorative justice program coordinator, but it has to grow organically to reach that point. So it's not a current plan, but at some point it might come up, but that's a future
So maybe
issue.
we will talk about this again next year. I mean, I don't know. I'm not throwing it out, anything can happen.
I think that if anything does move forward, it needs to be under the purview of the subcommittee that worked on it to begin with, because it was the subcommittee that did the work, that they would have been the ones to suggest the survey, the outreach. That's the subcommittee's work. That wasn't done. And so when it was presented to us, it's not the role necessarily of the full committee. I would put it back onto the subcommittee. But I don't know how we move forward. Like, this reminds me of, was it, I don't know what vote it was, where the school committee made a vote in favor or against something.
Sixth grade move.
The sixth grade, no, it was I think it was Leiden, closing Leiden or Warwick. Closing Warwick, okay. Closing Warwick, and there was an affirmative vote, and then it had to be revoted again, and there was a whole process to revote something that had been voted. So I don't know what that process looks like, But if that is the committee's decision to survey and that should go back to the subcommittee to work on it again.
So I think Jennifer, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, sorry, I popped in a little bit ago to say that I agree with Melissa's commentary. So I just wanted to pop in and say that.
Great.
Sorry, I'm late.
Nope, that's okay. So I think what I'm hearing is that at this point, I'm not feeling a strong sense that we need to revisit things at this point. I think maybe which subcommittee was it? The personnel subcommittee?
It was the prior curriculum and personnel, so
prior
now it would be collective bargaining.
No,
It would be
Personnel.
the,
Yes, it would be.
That was curriculum and personnel.
It was, but the personnel portion is now
Is
part of,
it would be under
Up.
teaching and learn.
no,
No, collective
No.
bargaining and personnel.
right.
So the personnel
Collective
part
bargaining
now
and
is part of
personnel.
collective
Mhm.
So that's something that that can be discussed at the subcommittee level at this point, and then okay, great, sounds good. So student overnight field trip is
Okay,
next on
I will
our
be
agenda.
brief with this. You have a full memo in your packet. Lex and Rain are going to Vermont.
With a whole bunch of us. We're heading up to Vermont, as you know, for the Vermont Learning Excursion. We had a really nice webinar with that team, with the 10 districts last week, maybe, and then was yesterday the Learning Walk?
Yes.
Yeah, do you want to say?
I was just going to say, yeah, it went well. We've had a couple meetings about this, and we're both very excited and interested in the information we're going to be able to bring back from this trip for the committee and for the school.
Yeah, I'm getting more excited the closer we get. So we are requesting permission to take Lex and Rain with us. By policy, we need the school committee to approve overnight visits. They will have individual rooms. Their rooms will be next to mine. And one of the other teachers. You're perfect. You are perfect. They will be under the general supervision of the 6 adults accompanying them. We think we're going to rent a minivan. The grant covers all the costs to the trip. We think we'll rent one minivan and then have one private car going. So happy to answer any questions, and this is seeking approval for an overnight field trip for our 2 students.
I'll make a motion. Is it written?
It's down the bottom.
Oh. I'll move to approve the participation of 2 PVRS students in the Vermont Learning Excursion trip.
I will second that.
Excellent. Any further discussion?
Sounds great.
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Jen? Oop, she may have disappeared. Raina Dastu, yes. Oh, great, perfect. Thank you. Raina Dastu, yes. All right.
Thank
that
you very
passes
much.
Unanimously.
So are some of those school districts, they are smaller than
They
ours?
are.
That's
One of them has
amazing.
100 students in the high school.
Yeah,
Yeah. Super interesting. 2 rural schools. One, Winooski, is more urban.
Yeah.
And it has a majority of students of color in Winooski, Vermont. How about that?
It has around 40% of people of color.
Oh, sorry about that, Rain. I thought I had said majority. My apologies. So, very
It is
interesting.
still a majority, but it's bigger than
it's
what
only
we
40.
have.
yes.
Yeah, 40% is a good.
Thank you.
Great, perfect. Yeah, we're excited to hear to learn what you learn.
Yes.
Good. So next is our student overnight field trip approval of the senior class trip.
yes, hi, I think you have a packet of all the information. It is the yearly senior class trip. They have fundraised for 4 years, and the trip is going to be to Boston. We're going to stay at the Marriott in Cambridge, walk to the train, and we're going to have one complete day in Boston, and Saturday we have tickets to a Red Sox game. Game starts at 4 p.m. Any student that doesn't want to go to the Red Sox game has the option of the Museum of Fine Arts, or the aquarium, or the Science Museum. All those options will be open to them. They can decide what it is that they want to do and when they, So we are looking for, permission from the school committee so that we can confirm all of our.
And how are you getting to Boston?
We are taking a yellow school bus
Okay.
to it's an hour and a half.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's
But
Yeah.
yes, we're taking a yellow school bus. They are going to drop us off. They will come back and pick us up on Sunday. We will leave Friday morning about 8 o'clock, and then we will leave Sunday right at checkout.
Nice. Good.
Awesome.
Great. Sounds great. Would someone like
I'll
to?
move to accept the senior class trip to Boston. And I can't find the date.
April 26th,
April.
27th, 28th.
Okay, thank you.
I will second that.
Sylvia Cummings, yes, but I want to go.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
You there, Jen? Thanks. And Raina Dastu, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Kathy Malsh. Thank you for
Thank
all
you.
the
Yeah.
faculty organizers. And thank you for the student organizers as well. They're
Yeah.
doing great.
Have a great time. All right. So our school year calendar.
Okay, we have draft number 3. I think this is it. I hope this is it. So you have a memo in front of you. What have we done? We have increased the teacher work year by 1 day. That allows us to have 2 full days of PD during the school year. So we've gone to 2 opening days before the kids come, a day in October, a day in November. We have stationed some half days of PD on Friday. Those 2 full days are the Fridays before long weekends, so families who would like to could get out of town, enjoy themselves. We went back to 3 half days for elementary conferences in spring and fall. We have kept the 3 half days at Pioneer for the mid-year exams and middle school conferences, and we think that there's room there because many of the high school courses are year-long courses now. They don't do a final exam halfway through the year. So this might be a great day to get some PD in with a number of the high school faculty to be worked on. The change for the end of the year is that the projected last day of school is now June 12th. If there are no snow days, with 5 snow days, we go to Friday, June 20th, and there are still 6 weekdays left in June. Heaven forbid. It's a snowy year. I think those are the big changes. And this was sent out to the entire district for further review. So I am seeking a motion. Questions, of course, and then
I
hope.
just have a question. The new staff orientation days are the 21st and 22nd?
Yes.
A Wednesday and Thursday?
Yes.
And was the rationale for the choice in not making it Thursday, Friday?
Because they don't want to come on Friday.
Okay.
They come with no pay.
Oh.
In the contract, we may bring new educators in for up to 3 days, and I've run new educator orientation. This is my 3rd district. I love doing it. And Kate now takes it on, Kate Mesmer. But, like one last weekend in the summer before the year starts.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. All right.
I make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 school year calendar as presented.
Second.
Perfect.
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
You there? Perfect. And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a calendar.
We have a calendar.
All right. Statement of interest submission to the Mass School Building Authority. What's next?
Great. I'm going to try to go quick. The longest part of this is going to be ultimately reading the motions.
Do you think you have to?
I know you have to, which is terrible, but it's the law. I adhere to all laws. Regulation.
Round
round robin, that would be called round robin.
Yeah, I think Miss Brennan could probably lead allowing choosing different people to read aloud. She probably has some experience doing that. So I will, in all seriousness, try to get through this quickly. But obviously, there's a lot of important information, and I do, in fact, think you need to. You may be able to say, make a motion to approve the motion as presented.
So what is it? What's the statement of interest, Jordan?
Yes.
What is
so
this?
Statement of interest, right? So the statement of interest, and I've emphasized this numerous times. It's not an approval to build a new school. It is approving the statement of interest approves the district to submit the statement of interest to provide to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA, to lay out the deficiencies of the 3 school buildings. Because ultimately the option 3 that was recommended by the by our committee talks about a combined pre-K through 12 building at this site that impacts all 3 buildings. So it's 3 separate statements of interest. But really what those 3 statements of interest are doing are explaining the deficiencies in each of the buildings that potentially could be remedied through a building project. But to move forward with the statement of interest, we need the approval of the school committee.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
So just want to make super clear. So if you approve the statements of interest, there are 3, they go to the MSBA. From then, and Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, from then until December, nothing happens.
That's correct.
Because the MSBA board meets quarterly. It's at the December board meeting that they vote on different proposals. And then for folks on the district planning committee who remember those charts of the 7 years it would take to do things, Claire's nodding her head. Let's say, so then if the MSBA says, nah, ding, Pioneer, no, then no. What we know is that for this year, the MSBA has said, we're not going to entertain bringing you into the process for a further look. Good luck, try again next year. If they say yes, therein ensues a 270-day window, which is 9 months, during which we might pursue a feasibility study. No.
No, that's the eligibility period. So you got 270 days to start getting in your information to then be approved to submit a feasibility study, which then would take more time.
Okay. So this approval of the statements of interest gets our foot in the MSBA door to say, please take a look at how deficient some of our buildings are. That's it. No promises, no money, no nothing. And even if we get in, then there's a 9-month process, no promises, nothing.
And during that feasibility study is when we would be reaching out to the community?
I think in advance of the feasibility study, because the feasibility study costs money. So certainly before we start spending any money, whether it's even on the feasibility study to see what this project might look like in terms of a schematic design, et cetera. So we would
right, eligibility.
Right, we would be told in essentially January. Okay, January, you're in now you're in the eligibility period where you need to provide some documentation, including the school committee approving that they would fund the feasibility study. So during that 270-day period is when the district would start engaging, as the memo says, in collaborative dialogue with the town. So since there would be actual expenditures for the feasibility study, it would be appropriate to start collaborating with the towns at that point. So that could start as soon as, January 2025. In terms of actually spending money, likely if everything went well and the school committee approved, moving forward with submitting a feasibility study, actually spending money would happen in the FY 2027 budget. So still a ways out, but far in advance of that, we would begin the dialogue process to see what our community members and of course our town partners think about funding the feasibility study itself. The feasibility study would likely be over $1 million, so it's not a small amount of money. And importantly, ultimately, if you are do a project that's approved, the MSBA funding would defray the cost of the feasibility study. But when you vote as a school committee, you vote to approve the entire amount because there's no guarantee of funding from MSBA. So, but this initial stage, the SOI that we're talking about tonight, has no financial impact. It's just approving us to submit to see if we get accepted into the eligibility period. And at each stage, there's not some inertia that forces the district at any point to spend money by submitting the SOI. So it wouldn't be until the approving the feasibility study, approving moving forward with the feasibility study, that there would be any financial impact. So even being accepted into the eligibility period doesn't, we would have during that 270-day period that opportunity to really discuss further about the financial implications and whether or not we want to spend money to move forward. So this is just saying, hey, let's put it in there and see in December 2024 what the MSBA says about us getting in the queue to be considered for funding. And I know it's a ton of information. Any questions?
Go ahead, Claire.
Yeah, so just to be clear, when would would it be after the feasibility study that the state would then commit to the percentage that they would cover?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, you got that on the first try.
I know.
She's good.
Very good.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
sharp.
Yeah.
We could have MSBA Jeopardy. Yeah. Renee would do really well.
What is?
Jordan, that was quite a reading assignment that we were emailed.
I know. I apologize.
But I do have a question about the Pioneer Valley portion of it. And we can do that after the other two motions if you want, or before. I did feel like something was left out.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And it's on page 11 and 12 of the Pioneer section.
One.
Yeah.
Which is the last one, correct?
Yep.
I got it. I think that did Taffy ask you if you wanted her to print a copy for your packets?
Yeah.
Yes.
So she asked for people to have it printed or not have it printed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just printed the page, the relevant page. It talks about the high school wing and how the space is used at the bottom of page 11 of theirs. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That seemed okay to me. But then on the back of that page, or page 12, talked about the middle school wing. And although there was an earlier reference to a second floor, there's nothing about a second floor here that I can see. In fact, it talks about a middle school with one science room. There is a science room on the second floor.
Right.
And there's a technology space up there, correct? Is it still there?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. But there are other classrooms, et cetera, bathrooms, et cetera, that don't seem to be listed here.
One solution.
Oh, and the good thing is we can still make changes to the
Yeah, okay, I just didn't want
Yep.
it to be misrepresented.
That was a great catch.
Yeah. Thank
Well, I knew the building once, I don't know it so well now, how it's used, but there is space up there.
Yes, and it is
Yeah.
space that is currently used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I learned a new word. WYTHE is a masonry term referring to brick.
Oh.
I had never seen that before.
Making Jeopardy and Scrabble champions. This is good.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Maybe a good
catch.
crossword. Perfect. Other questions? And I would also just like to go on record to the public and to our town officials that, having been part of the district planning committee, we all recognize that this is very aspirational, and we know it's not a done deal. It was never like, yeah, let's do that. It was looking at all of the information and considering the options that we had available to us. This was something that we could get excited about, and that we really feel is a possibility. It's not, we never concluded that process saying we're going to go ask the towns for, all of this money to build a new building. It was not a frivolous, but it is aspirational. And I think going down this path, beginning down this path is a good move to see where it leads. And it doesn't commit us in one way or another. And I think it's good to throw our hats in the ring and see what we can see where it leads.
I would urge everybody, I know it's not your favorite nighttime reading, but to be familiar with all the problems that exist with the current buildings and what that's going to cost just to maintain, to keep up, to follow the law in many cases, to keep the children safe, and never mind the energy issues and the greenhouse gas issues that are, and the climate implications of sticking with fossil fuels to keep our buildings going.
I just wanted to make a comment as a reminder to the committee that when the canon design went over survey results, students were strongly in support of moving forward with this. So I just want to make sure that is remembered.
Thanks, Lex.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also want to add to Karen's comments that, we are also looking forward in terms of education and the way education has evolved. The high school experience things are taught differently than they were when I was in high school 40 years ago. And, 20 years from now, 40 years from now, our facilities need to be able to keep up with the way education is changing, and what today's students need from their education is different from what those of us at the table needed when we were in high school. So, and that was part of the conversation. And Lex said it very well, that students were they're our current and our future. So they had some really, really great input to that process.
Yeah.
All right. So
So are you looking for a motion to be read?
to read a motion.
Okay, motion 1 for Bernardston Elementary School. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 21st, 2024, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit the Massachusetts School Building Authority, hereinafter referred to as MSBA, the Statement of Interest form dated April 2024 for the Bernardston Elementary School located at 37 School Road, Bernardston, Mass. 01337, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the MSBA in the future. Priority 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs. The Bernardston Elementary School building requires replacement to increase energy conservation, as the building envelope has significant deficiencies, and the oil-fired boilers at the Bernardston Elementary School are beyond their reasonable useful life and operate inefficiently. Priority 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs and the facility limitations precluding the programs being offered. The Bernardston Elementary School was built for a previous era of education. The building lacks areas for related service providers and lacks dedicated areas for specialist teachers. The building becomes oppressively hot in the warmer months, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the MSBA in no way guarantees the acceptance or approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the MSBA, or commits the Pioneer Valley Regional School District to filing an application for funding with the MSBA.
I second that.
Excellent. Any further discussion? All right, Sylvia, go ahead.
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Druso, no.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes.
Okay, I'll go again.
Yes.
Unless anybody else is interested.
I'll do the last one. Okay.
Melissa, I'll read for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Motion to Northfield Elementary School. Having convened in an open meeting on March 21st, 2024, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit the MSBA to the statement of interest form dated April 2024 for the Northfield Elementary School located at 104 Main Street, Northfield, Mass. 01360, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the MSBA in the future. Priority 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs. The Northfield Elementary School building requires replacement to increase energy conservation. Much of the building was constructed prior to 1945 and contains original equipment, windows, and doors. The heating and hot water distribution systems are also at the end of their useful life and will require replacement in the near term to improve energy efficiency. Priority 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs and the facility limitations precluding the programs being offered. The Northfield Elementary School was built for a previous era of education, and part of the building was built for high school students rather than elementary students. Sections of the building maintain the original design and equipment from 1910, which poses safety and accessibility challenges. Windows that are either difficult or unsafe to operate pose ventilation challenges, and one window fell into a classroom this year. Mechanical systems create large amounts of ambient noise and impact instruction, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the MSBA in no way guarantees the acceptance or approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the MSBA, or commits the Pioneer Valley Regional School District to filing an application for funding with the MSBA.
I'll second that.
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Druso, no.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. One passes. Motion 3.
Motion 3. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 21, 2024, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the MSBA the statement of interest form dated April 2024 for the Pioneer Valley Regional School located at 97 F. Sumner Turner Drive, Northfield, Massachusetts 01360, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the MSBA in the future. Priority 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs. The Pioneer Valley Regional School Building requires replacement to increase energy conservation, as much of the distribution system is original to the building, 67 years old. Window and roofing insulation is far below recommended levels, and the building envelope has deteriorated. The result is that the building has higher energy use intensity than average schools. Priority 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs, and the facility limitations precluding the programs being offered. The Pioneer Valley Regional School was built for a previous era of education. The layout of the building and instructional spaces prevent more innovative and multidisciplinary learning. Areas like the Innovation Center, where spaces have been repurposed to try to create modern learning environments, fail to overcome the inherent design shortcomings and prevent more innovative educational opportunities for students. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the MSBA in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the MSBA, or commits the Pioneer Valley Regional School District to filing an application for funding with the MSBA.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks. All right.
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Geruso, no.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I do have one additional question. How are we on moving toward doing something with the portable buildings out there at this point?
Director of Finance and Operations.
Well, they're still storing stuff. I mean, including probably raccoons and squirrels.
Mushrooms. Okay.
Mold.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately, if ultimately we move forward with a building project, I think that would be inherent in that you would also develop space for whatever it may be, records retention or whatever those buildings. And I don't think it would be prohibitively expensive to get rid of them, but it certainly would be easier to, undertake the cost if it was part of a larger endeavor, because potentially, that's way ahead, but schematically, if a design included a new elementary wing that was out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Demolition and removal of those buildings could be rolled into the actual capital project and then paid for over time rather than a single operating budget. So I would say that would be, ultimately, if we're not going to do anything with a building project, then maybe it would make sense to consider a one-off expense to get rid of them.
And getting rid of them, so for folks who don't know, they have a basement. They are not sitting on the blacktop. There is a scary, musty, dank basement with really scary old molding documents.
Yeah.
It's
I thought it was
no, it's not sitting. One of them is sitting on the surface. Two of them, they have an interconnected basement. So it's not a question of just picking them up and.
Yes, and
Dramatic.
if my memory is correct, disposing of them properly was going to be pretty expensive. Yeah. We tried selling them. We tried giving them away.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be a six-figure investment potentially.
Yeah.
That's certain, but I could see that being realistic.
Yeah. So, okay. Thanks.
Other business. Sylvia, said she would like to share something.
I just wanted to mention something. So I recently I sat in on the 3-town meeting. I think that was March 7th. Was that March 7th? And I just had a couple of comments. So I've noticed that there's just a lot of there's obviously a lot of division between the towns, and it seems like the towns and the school committee, and I don't know how to rectify that, but I do know that sort of acknowledging it and naming it and just trying to move forward from that. And I personally was on, I am on the district agreements subcommittee, and we had been meeting religiously often, up until actually a couple weeks ago. And we had been meeting for about 6 months and working really hard on that. And I had joined school committee in the fall. So it's really, it's a sort of a newer subcommittee for me. And I do just want to mention that we've been working really hard, but having our town officials keep mentioning the fact that why isn't it done isn't going to make us do it faster. And honestly, it was very disheartening to hear, just continuing to hear why it's not done. It makes me not want to work on it. I have an obligation to work on it, and I want to complete it, and we're so close to completing it, and I haven't spent this much time on it to not complete it. So I want to make the towns known that I personally am not spending all of this time away from my family to see it to completion. So I think just instead of hearing, you're doing a bad job, it's not going to make us want to work on it nobody wants to hear they're doing a bad job. So just reiterating the fact that we are working on it. Let's move past the fact that it's not done, and just continue maybe trying to have a little bit more of mutual respect on both sides, from school committee to the town and to the towns to the school committee as well. I am doing my best personally to do what I can to do what I can here. So I would just ask that everybody else put their best foot forward, especially when we're meeting in public. And we're also, other towns are looking to us and looking at what we're doing in other communities. This is not a good look for us. That meeting was not a good look. And I would just like to look like a better, stronger community. So if anyone has any other ideas or any ideas how to do that going forward, I'm all ears, and I will obviously think of ways to move forward together as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Celia.
Rena, I have something.
Yes.
So this kind of piggybacks on community involvement. So just by chance, I had someone reach out to me the other day and ask about when certain positions are open for school committee. And it made me look at our little happy diagram we have online. And just so everybody knows, this coming election that happens in November, the only remaining seats that will be in effect is myself, Gretchen, and Rena. Yours does not say that. Yours says 2024. So your seat is up in 2024.
24.
Yep. So the only 3 that are remaining who are not up for election.
I see what you're saying.
So at the November election.
I'll be up in November.
Yeah. So your seat will be up.
Okay.
Karen's seat
I'll be
is up.
gone.
Michelle's seat is up. The vacancy is still vacant. Stephen is up. Jen Coffin is up.
Yeah.
So there's only 3 moving forward in November that
Have been here.
that will be here, unless other people
Unless they're
decide to run.
reelected.
Yes, and
Yeah.
so as people are starting to think about election season, and people who want to get involved and have many strong opinions, this is the time to step up and join us at the table. So just
That's
I'm
right.
throwing it out there now, so it doesn't become a surprise in a couple months when there's just the 3 of us
And
who are here.
And I think whoever does run must understand their obligation is to the students of the district primarily.
Correct. Right. Our role is to the students of the district.
And for folks interested in looking at the graph that Melissa has mentioned, if you go to the district website, and the menu at the top of your screen, you'll see school committee, click on that. And in the drop down, you'll see the word members, click on that.
and on the bottom of the page. So go to the district website, school committee members, bottom of the page, and it's a pretty easy to read graph that shows you the term of every current member.
Okay. All right. On that note, personnel update.
On that note, we pulled a position or two off of School Spring that hadn't been filled. So I think the high school math position came down. The speech and language pathologist, we had someone leave us and quickly come back because we are great. Danny Kemsley left us for Central Massachusetts, and the very first day she wasn't there, we have a long-term sub in place, Sam Osborne, who has a lot of experience working at Jaduke. Tom Moore, I think we talked about this. Tom Moore is going to the day shift instead of the night shift, so we've been looking for a nighttime custodian. Some coaches. You will begin to see more positions listed on here because we are in the spring hiring season.
I noticed the coaches were a new addition also.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we need to have coaches on here.
I mean,
it's
fine, but it was a surprising.
Yeah.
I saw it and I was like, oh. Okay. So
I would rather not do it if we don't have to. It's layers of.
So can you elaborate a bit on how the Guidance Student Services Administrative Assistant, was that formerly a guidance secretary, is being restructured?
Yes. We have had Cheryl Baker is a full-time school administrative assistant here at PVRS. There has been a second administrative assistant position that is part of the PVASP that was half-time in guidance, half-time in this office. With the departure of Kate Baylog at the end of June, right, her position has gone to a half-time position, and Kate is retiring at the end of June. This gave us an opportunity to look at our needs. So we are looking at combining the part-time student services position with the part-time guidance position, and then have a separate 0.5 position up here in the high school.
That raises another question, and I know the committee negotiations and personnel have been very busy, but do these types of things get presented to that
Administration would not need to present these to you. School committee has the responsibility to approve positions. For instance, to say the collective bargaining agreement will include, that part's negotiated. Let me think. When you approved the assistant athletic director, that was a new position. That is your purview.
Okay.
Whether or not administration hires for that position is an administrative decision. Whether we hire for that position year after year after year is an administrative position. If we don't hire for a position, it doesn't mean the position has gone away. The only body that could say the Pioneer Valley School District will no longer have an assistant athletic director in its sort of roster of positions would be the school committee. So once positions are created, how they're staffed is administrative.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is probably a good time to do the briefest of updates on the principal hiring searches. So we had 2 wonderful visits over at BES. Thank you to both Renee and Melissa, who sit on that search committee. Our 2 finalists each spent a day in the school, and then we had a meet and greet in the evening. I am in the midst of reference calls. The search committee will have a brief meeting on Monday afternoon. And I hope to have an announcement next week. The PVRS Principal Search Committee, Claire is on that. No, you are on BES. Melissa is on BES. Neither.
Raina is on people.
Raina is on. I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry. Pioneer.
Balls in the air.
We are interviewing next week. So more news to come.
All right, enrollment update.
Enrollment, we had a couple, we went down by a couple students this month. We went down by 2 students this month. That's the report.
A senior.
Patricia, can I ask?
Somebody graduated early.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask, is it a move or, okay.
Graduated early. Yep.
Yeah, I know. I was a little surprised to see that too.
Yeah. Okay.
Congratulations to them.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. All right, so our upcoming meetings, collective bargaining is meeting on 4/2. 4/11 is our next full school committee meeting, 6 p.m. Be here.
And some of us will be away. I'm going to dial in on that one. Lex and Rain.
Oh,
They don't have to dial in.
that's
They're
when
gonna
you'll
enjoying
be
a dinner
away.
in Vermont.
Nice.
Hmm.
All right. Excellent. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
Go ahead.
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle Drew, so yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Perfect. And Raina Dastu, yes. Perfect. All right, 8:31. Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
This
thank
was a long
you.
one.